Let's take a look at some news and releases from this week, with a new Space Marine, new Warboss rules and an interesting teaser, plus some news of Games Workshop events in America. Hello and welcome back to Warboss Tactics, where today we're talking Games Workshop's news and reveals, and in this one I thought I'd cover a bunch of slightly more minor topics: a new snazzy looking Space Marine, new Warboss rules for Ufthak Blackhawk, a fun new Camo Cloak teaser, and a few Games Workshop event hints. Jumping straight in, let's start with the Warboss. I've talked about this guy a few times on the channel already, Ufthak Blackhawk, a unique Warboss miniature coming alongside Games Workshop's big Black Library releases, him in particular being a Bad Moons Warboss from many books including the Big Daka, the one that's releasing this week. It seems that Games Workshop gives Black Library a model budget of one per year. We've had previous ones like Uriel Ventris or Valerian and Alea. Both of those have become ongoing parts of the range and core parts of their codexes, so I feel like there's at least a reasonable chance that this guy will too, being a nice new Bad Moons flavoured Warboss to go forward for the future. I think his miniature is really quite a fun one, gives a different sort of flavour of Orc Warboss, hefting his mighty snaz hammer aloft and perching his shock blaster on his squig princess. It seems that his pricing is confirmed at what I was expecting it to be, £27.50, €35 or $45, so kind of standard Games Workshop character pricing there. As ever, quite a lot for any one plastic miniature, though I would say that this one's really quite a fun sculpt in my opinion. Though maybe the biggest question for him was whether he'd get any new rules or anything like that, and it seems that Games Workshop have answered with that one. If you were looking to pick this guy up at a discount incidentally, feel free to check out the discount retailers that I have linked in the video description around the world. He should be going up for pre-order on Saturday the 10th, sometime tomorrow at different times around the world. Anything bought through there helps to support Allspec Tactics a little bit. Looking at his datasheet though, it is a Legends datasheet unfortunately. I felt like if they released it as a digital download, it odds on would be. I'd guess the fact that they have needed to release a Legends datasheet probably means that he's not going to be getting an imprint version on the Orcs Codex, which is going to be out in the not too distant future. So I guess there's at least a small chance that this could be an interim one until that book comes out. Given the precedent of Valerian and Alea and Uriel Ventris and others, I feel like there is a pretty reasonable chance that he could get a permanent Orky datasheet in the future, but there's at least a reasonable chance that it might be for the next Orc Codex, whenever that might be, likely in 11th edition, probably over 3 years from now. In any case though, you can still absolutely play with him in games, though it wouldn't be recommended for tournament play. His rules give you a 70-point Orc Warboss profile, the stat line the same as the regular Warboss on foot, and like that model he can join either boys or knobs. He certainly brings the violence like those datasheets. His mighty snaz hammer essentially has the profile of a power claw but gets devastating wounds tacked on. In reality though, most of the time it won't be hitting quite as accurately, as the standard Orc Warboss gives you +1 to hit if he's leading a unit, so he usually hits on a 2+, whereas this one will be hitting on a 3. Otherwise you get Princess's Jaws for the extra attack sway attacks, much like the standard Warboss, and his gun's got quite a fun profile as well, a mid-strength shock rifle that gets to hit on a surprisingly unorky 4+, I guess he's got some good targeting optics there, a single shot with precision, devastating wounds and hazardous, and hits at strength 8, AP2 and damage d6 +1. I guess a small, highly unreliable chance to just one-shot an enemy character, though with a range of 24 inches, every so often it might just step up to the plate and slap an enemy support character dead. Probably the most interesting things that he has though are his special rules. Rather than the standard Warboss which gives you a +1 to hit for the lead unit, instead his main boost is called Teleporter Tech. While this model is leading a unit, models in the unit have the Deep Strike ability. I guess that one is kind of fun. You could have a squad of knobs or orc boys just deep striking into the heart of the enemy. I guess could be interesting enough for maybe a rapid ingress threat there. Or alternatively, you could still get them a pretty reliable charge with the +2 to charge stratagem that they have. If you can budget a couple of CP, that'd be a 7-inch charge with a potential reroll, which is at least fairly reliable. Otherwise, his personal damage special rule is called Gargant Smasher. Each time this model makes an attack that targets a Titanic unit, he gets to reroll the hit roll and the wound roll, so quite a big boost there. I guess big rerolls could potentially add up to a few more devastating wounds if there was something that you were wounding on a 5+ maybe. I think it's a fun rule, but isn't going to be relevant in most combats that he's in, unless you know that you're fighting Titanic Knights or something, and only with a damage 2 profile, it's still not going to be taking down super heavies on his own or anything ridiculous like that. Overall, though, a kind of fun data sheet. I feel like the granting deep strike is an interesting enough niche for him. Maybe a little bit weird that it's quite such a big niche that it basically is the main thing that he does for the unit. Otherwise, maybe not too dissimilar from a standard Warboss, who is a bit cheaper and also gets the +1 to hit, which is pretty nice in melee. Moving on though, we also have a shiny new Space Marine for the Horus Heresy with this Siegebreaker Consul miniature, a leader and advisor specialising in the destruction of enemy fortifications and vehicles, clearly planning a bit of gunnery command there with his little holographic readout thing there, mounted on an arm sweeping round for his backpack. Seems like it could be a fun miniature for Imperial Fist or Iron Warriors characters if you fancied a different sort of one with a heresy theme. It also looks like he'd be threatening enough in a scrap as well, given that he's wielding a massive thunder hammer. Otherwise, from the other Games Workshop pictures, you can see the back of his backpack, plus the head swap option that he has, a great big targeting eye relay thing, whichever head you choose. And the pricing would likely be £27.50, €35 or $45, slightly higher than equivalent plastic characters, given that he'd be a Forge World resin kit. I guess could perhaps be an option for a Tech Marine or Warpsmith perhaps as another option if you wanted to run him in 40k. In general, reaction to him seems to have been at least fairly good. Quite a lot of interesting theming that you can do with Space Marine characters digging into their heresy range if you like the armor plating style. Otherwise, from just a little teaser snippet from earlier in the week, I did think that this Camo Cloak teaser on the rumour engine was maybe a little bit more interesting than some of the other things they show off there. It does look like this one has maybe a higher chance of being for Warhammer 40k than a few of the other things. Most people seeming to agree that it probably looks like the edge of a camo cloak with some inlaid raised bits, maybe like a bit of a 40k ghillie suit maybe. The curved bits do look like it might be a bit more likely to be fabric versus metal. Obviously not really too much that you could infer from this one. If it is indeed for 40k and it isn't for Necromunda or Heresy in some way, then most of the suggestions and comments that I got had it suggesting that it could be Cast-Chan or Rattling Snipers maybe. We have seen a fair few other prior guard teasers. Both Cast-Chan Jungle Fighters and Rattlings are in sore need of updates, so anything for them would be kind of nice. The other major suggestion I saw was for Leagues of Votan. I understand they're rumoured to have a Scouts Hernkin on foot sort of team coming out at some point, perhaps for Kill Team itself. And I could kind of see that with the little strap thing that's holding the things on the right hand upper of the miniature. Those straps do look kind of similar to the ones on the Hernkin Pioneers, though they're not really that specific compared with some of the other things that we might have seen. I did quite like on the post that I shared for this one, the top voted comment was that this is obviously an eliminated lieutenant, as we clearly need more Primaris lieutenants in our lives. I did enjoy that one. Finally, just from earlier in the week, Games Workshop did announce their US Open tournament series for this year, heading to the same sort of locations they've had in the past. Grand tournaments in Dallas, Texas, Tacoma, Washington, Tampa Bay, Florida, and Atlanta, Georgia. The Atlanta, Georgia one being the return of Games Workshop's World Championships of Warhammer, so it does look like that's going to be a regular fixture in the calendar, this one around about November, and they also host their Grand Narrative event. Quite a fun idea where a bunch of people duke it out in a custom campaign to decide the fate of one little corner of the 40k universe. They posted a bit of an overview of the outcome of last year's one in the Palat system on their Warhammer community page this week. In these tournaments, usually the biggest event with the most focus tends to be 40k. They'll also have Age of Sigmar, Kill Team, Warhammer Underworlds and Blood Bowl on the go, and apparently some organised play for Legions Imperialis. Maybe they're trying to trial that to see how much of an uptake there is. Those events are often interesting for covering winning tournament lists from, and they often tend to tie in their reveal shows with these, so I'm sure we'll hear a bit more about these as they unfold over the calendar this year. In any case, I'll keep this one short. Let me know your thoughts on the new rules, the new Space Marine, the teaser and the tournament. Look forward to hearing all your thoughts and ideas in the comments below. If you'd like to see more like this, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics. I'll certainly try and keep up with Games Workshop's news and rumours. And finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page as well, and you can find that linked in the video description below if you'd like to help support and keep these videos coming. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that does sound good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.